afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Very excited to be here. So without further ado, because the subject is very exciting, as you know, that we're discussing today, that if fast fashion fever, saving money trumps safeguarding environment, is the topic of the hour, and one that I'm also very interested in. To debate, we have two teams. We have the proposition of Omer, Chaudry, and Xeeshan, and we have the opposition of Arif and Ammar, Aziz. So I'd like to introduce our proposition. Our first speaker tonight is none other than a very dear friend of mine. He is a fashion icon, has graduated from the Pakistan Institute of Fashion Design, also serves on the board of the Pakistan Fashion Design Council, lives and breathes fashion, has his finger on the pulse of what's happening, and has been able to create new streams of design thought that we thought were not possible. He is incredibly talented and an incredibly humble person. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Xeeshan. Our second team for the proposition member is none other than Omer Chaudry. Omer Chaudry, again, someone I have seen grow up and develop into an incredible smart marketing strategy and brand developer. He is also a graduate of the Pakistan School of Fashion Design, now called Pakistan Institute of Fashion Design, went to Xeeshan, and has since worked in some of the largest fashion houses, development houses, and has now started his own company called Recon. One thing that he really stands apart in from the rest of the companies is that he believes that all things that are Pakistan are most important to him, and he's really done an incredible job in representing what Pakistan fashion means to the rest of the world. He is a brand builder, he's a strategist, he understands operations and global sourcing, but most importantly, he really understands supply chain management, which is one of the main things we'll be discussing here in this debate. Please put your hands together for the incredibly talented Omer Chaudry. Arif Iqbal has done so much that if we start talking about it, we might be here for a very long time. He has achieved tremendous success in software engineering. He calls himself a product builder. He has worked with the likes of Microsoft, eBay, Pinterest, Facebook, and now has developed his own online business. I can't even say business because they do so much. They represent so many things. And they've also taken fashion, especially fast fashion, by storm. His business, LAM, is now on the fingertips of every man, woman, and child in this country, and it continues to develop at a very fast rate, just like Arif does. Please put your hands together for Arif Iqbal. Last but not least is Ammar Aziz. He's a filmmaker, he's a poet, but more than that, I think he's an empath who's working to make sure that other people's lives are bettered. He is right now running and is a co-founder of Samaj, which is a non-profit organization that helps with inclusive society, emphasis on gender equality and freedom of expression and art, all subjects very large and also incredibly important in a country like Pakistan. He's doing a great job, and today he'll be speaking. Please put your hands together for Ammar Aziz. I'm your moderator, HSY. Well, let me explain the rules of what we will be doing. This debate style usually has different rules and regulations. These are the ones that we've selected for us, so they'll make your life a little more easy to understand how we will be doing it. We will have the proposition speak for 8 minutes to introduce us to their subject or why they feel the way they feel. And then the opposition will speak for 8 minutes of negating or letting us know their side of the story. We will do this twice over. During this time, we will allow for a minimum of 3 POIs, which is point of information. Usually a point of information is to let the other party know that their facts or information may be incorrect or they have something to add, which I think might change your mind. What is the point of this entire debate? You have just voted on the app to let us know where you lie on this subject, and we're hoping that perhaps during this debate, your mind may have changed or may have been even more further convinced of the fact that you believe in what is it that you do. After that, we will have a closing remark by myself, the moderator, and we'll leave the final opinion to you. Without further ado, I would like to start. So the session title is Fast Fashion Fever, Saving Money Trumps Safeguarding Environment. For the proposition, our first speaker is Omer Chaudry. Omer Chaudry, you have 8 minutes starting now.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum everyone. So I've been put to the task of launching it. So I just want a show of hands. How many people do understand what fast fashion is? What is fast fashion? So we have a show of hands. I know some of them. So fast fashion versus traditional fashion. So the term fast fashion was coined in early 2000s when Zara came to the limelight. Prior to Zara, the traditional fashion said that we will be coming up with two collections every year, which was spring, summer, and fall, winter. And then some would have two more collections, which would be pre-summer and pre-fall, pre-spring and pre-fall. And others would have a celebration collection or a festive collection. So more or less, people were doing really well at that time, were coming up with 5 to 6 collection at the max. What Zara did at that time in 2000, they came up with the concept of fast fashion. They came up with 52 collections. Now, with 52 collections, one would say they kicked up a storm, and because they were driving the numbers, so people started emulating the numbers. And this is where it really started from. So when people started emulating without understanding what this entire thing or how this came about, so you're talking about every week you're getting a drop of products into the market which is completely new, completely according to the fashion and the trend, very appropriate, and according to the consumer in the country that is required. When you talk about something like this, you need to completely understand, like Hassan was telling us, it is all about how precision guided and how efficient and agile your supply chain is. So they were able to come up with this entire thing with a supremely agile supply chain. So Abibi, if you look at all the institutions out there, they have case studies on Zara. Because everyone around the world for the past, let's say, decade, they've been trying to emulate what Zara had done. Why? Because Zara was growing phenomenally, globally. So if you look at Zara and you could say they're not responding, I would say they were really, when you talk about fast fashion, not necessarily meaning that they were bad for the environment. They were just very precise with the product that they were pushing into the market. They were not having heaps and huge inventories to facilitate a season which would last for 3 or 4 months, and carrying those inventories through their warehouses, through their brick and mortar stores. They were just very precise. They were doing that with an algorithm, with best-in-class business intelligence, with a best-in-class supply chain, which would connect from the raw material all the way into the retail in a matter of 4 weeks. This is what they did. How they did that, they had different permutations, and they could even do that in 2 weeks. So if they had a new fad coming out, they would be able to quickly react to that and bring it to the consumer. Now that said, that's Zara's story. Enough of that. I think truly when this entire thing, when we talk about fashion industry is a almost $2.5 trillion industry. So in different facets of this industry, it actually provides employment to about 300 million people. So if I put it in a context of a country, maybe it's the 5th or 6th largest country out there. So you're talking about a huge, huge amount of people. If and when they're unchecked, yes, they contribute to proliferation. But if they're kept in a check, it's a huge economy, and it's a huge economy builder for any nation out there. You have multiple brands out there in the world. I was just talking to Ali that these people, WWF came up with a program called the Best Cotton Initiative. It was a roundtable initiative, maybe started in 2006 or 2007. So they came up with a concept where they said they'll be using Better Cotton Initiative, where they'll be using, looking at labor laws, that no child labor is used in that. They'll be looking into the water usage. pesticide usage, and XYZ, everything that has to do with environment, they're going to curb that, and they'll be addressing that. And they came up with that, and guess who was funding this entire initiative? The big brands like Levi's, H&M, and people like that, they would fund it, and hence, because they understood the impact that they were having on this environment, and they wanted to change that. And not a policymaker or a government initiative, it wasn't a government initiative, it was an initiative of bigger brands who thought that they would become or be responsible. And it was their duty. After reaching a certain milestone, after reaching a certain size, that it is their responsibility and the duty to address that. And this is what they did. Many of you know, maybe know or don't know, there's a brand called Patagonia. So Patagonia, in 2006, came up with a campaign on their Black Friday, and they said, don't buy this jacket. It was their campaign. They had their Patagonia's jacket on top, and they said, don't buy this jacket. Because they said that if you do not require it, don't buy it. And if you already have it, it's broken, we'll fix it. If you don't need it, give it to us, we would upcycle it or recycle it or give it to someone who requires it. Now that campaign came out to be, it was clearly a winner out there. So somebody was thinking about the environment back in 2006. And now, maybe recently, if you've seen the news, the founder of the company, he's given up the company, he's saying now all profits of Patagonia are going towards climate saving and environment saving. And nobody does that. Now, believe me, if you have a company of a couple of $1 billion and you give it up and you say, I'm going to save the environment, you need to have a heart and you need to have a soul to actually be able to throw it out there. And you must be a strong believer in doing all of that. So I can come up with multiple examples of very big corporates who are responsible enough, who have supply chains which are agile and efficient enough that they're eliminating the wastage. They're making sure that their wastewater treatment plants are active. So they're very stringent terms of engagement. So I used to work with the Levi's, and in Levi's, we used to, any partner that we wanted to get on board for manufacturing, we had a very stringent terms of engagement. In that, we ensured that their carbon footprint was of an X amount. We ensured that there was no effluent, without effluent treatment plant, we would not let them operate. We would make sure that they were having minimum wage and different things that you require in the labor laws, they were all complying to it. And we ensured that because we were big enough and they needed that client on board. So you had that weight that you could throw around to make them do the right thing. So hence, if I look at the entire thing and I can sum it up, it's not the fact that fast fashion is an illness or a problem. It is how responsive and how responsible we are in an organization that's the problem. Unfortunately, when I look at the Pakistani market, we are right now in the life cycle of brands, we are in the nascent stages. So all our brands are right now coming up with, they're trying to survive. So survival does trump anything else. Survive, become big, and then create an impact. First save yourself, and then put the mask on the next person next to you. Yeah. No, I'm done.
1 minute, you're done. Well spoken, Omer. Lots of really interesting points. I think the takeaway there is about large companies not just having the ability to create fast fashion, but also having the awareness and the understanding that their fast fashion must be dealt with new laws and regulations that make sure that what is it that they're producing doesn't necessarily affect the environment. So, well done. No point of no POI there. I'm guessing you guys agreed.
Not
now,
really, but not yet.
Not yet. Now for the opposition of fast fashion fever, saving money trumps safeguarding environment. Our first speaker is
Ammar.
Ammar. Ammar, you have 8 minutes starting now.
Sure. Thank you, Hassan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here, and it's a rare panel, not just because of the theme, but also because it's an all male panel. You know, I just wanted to point this out because there should be some women at least. You know. Um, Thank you. So I'll be briefly sharing my thoughts and observation of working closely with garment workers in Pakistan as an activist filmmaker. For the last 10 years, I've worked a lot with the garment workers here. For example, my last feature-length documentary film, Discount Workers, it follows the struggle of some people from Karachi, some workers who lost their children in the factory fire that killed over 260 workers back in 2012. The film has been screened in a few countries all over the world. We've also had a few local screenings, but most of you, I'm sure, have not heard of the film. It's not because the film is bad, trust me. It's because the issue of labor is not considered very relevant in today's, in these times, you know, sadly. It's considered to be something from the past, something from the mid-20th century. Nobody really talks about the working class suffering and issues anymore. But anyway, if somebody wants to watch the film, you can reach out to me and talk to me later after this event. So when we talk about the global fashion industry, there's usually always a lot of emphasis on the industry's negative impact on nature, and not without a reason, you see, because, you know, mass consumptions and little time to meet consumers' needs has severe consequences. Now, for example, all over the world, 80 billion pieces of clothing are consumed every year. And there has been, an increase of 400% just in the last 20 years, 400%. Now, according to one research, one pair of jeans requires 7,600 liters of water to make it through production line. That's a lot of water. We consume how much water? Like maybe 2 liters a day?
A point of view.
Okay.
Allow it.
It required 3,500 liters. And now it's been substituted by waterless garments, by Levi's, Gap, and the big ones. Even Zara is doing that.
Okay.
And so most of the water that was consumed on the finishing part, where you would do the abrasion and torn and stuff like that. Now it's been overtaken by lasers. So really no water is used in that. Sorry.
Time.
Sure. I have current data from the International Labour Organization, ILO, and this is relevant. I should just continue here. Nobody really understands. So there's a lot of talk about environment, and there should be. But my brief talk today is going to be mostly about the consequences that the workers have to face all across the world, especially in the global south. So I began this conversation by mentioning this Baldia factory fire in Karachi. Now, most of you would remember that in 2012, this fire that affected this factory destroyed everything. It killed over 260 workers. That's a lot of people, 260 human lives. But nobody really, not many people know that they were making clothes for a German clothing brand. So while there was a lot of talk about this issue on the Pakistani mainstream media because of some political reasons, and there were political allegations and all of that is fine. But the matter of the fact is, no matter who is responsible for the fire, whether it's an accidental fire or if it's a criminal act, there should be fire safety measures. There were none in that factory. Now let me take you for a bit to this very factory. You know, I see myself standing outside this factory. The year is 2016. It's the 5th anniversary of this fire. And I see hundreds of men and women standing there crying, holding portraits of their children that they lost. Over 260 workers, most of these young people were not married. They were very young. They started working at a very young age. They wanted to live. They had simple needs. They had simple, desires. But all of that was shattered because they were making jeans for a German clothing brand. Let's name and shame them. It's called Kick. K-I-K. You can Google it up. Kick. It's a major brand in Europe, right? They were responsible. But that's just one example. If you take another, this was in 2012. In 2013, in Dhaka, there was another major incident of Rana Plaza factory that killed over 1,100 workers. Now, most of these factories there, they were making clothes for some global brands that you guys would be familiar with, including Zara, H&M, Mango, and all that nonsense. I don't know much about that. But these, global brands, at times they claim that it's the responsibility of local governments and local factory owners to provide, so that they can just, get away with the responsibility. They don't want to sort of face the consequences, legal consequences. So they just say, कि अच्छा भाई Pakistan में तो we just gave our theka to this company in this factory in Karachi. Now they are responsible. It's a poor country. But the fact is that the reason they choose countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh is because it's cheap labor. So they can exploit and they can make millions of dollars all across the world, right? So I'll quickly move to my next point, which is, of course, the people who survive, who don't get killed, there are so many consequences of health, because Ali and my other friends would know better that lots of chemicals are being used to make these clothes, According to my research, there are over 8,000 synthetic chemicals which are used to make clothes, because fast fashion is super fast. You have to sort of make the process really fast. So most of these chemicals, they are very unhealthy. They are so workers, they keep losing their eyesight. They are also known to cause cancer and all of that. And I would just conclude my talk that in order to prevent further damage to garment workers, there needs to be larger pushes for legislation around fair wages and corporate responsibility for supply chain management. It is important to address and resolve the human rights violations occurring as a result of fast fashion before it's too late. And those of you who would want to check which brands are doing their work responsibly, there's this website called fashionchecker.org, which we are a part of this campaign, my organization Samaj, and you can check fashionchecker.org to find out which international clothing brands pay their workers a living wage. Thank you.
Bravo. Great takeaways. 400% increase in the last couple of years in production, over 8,000 synthetic chemicals being used in fabrics. And though a point well defended by Omer Chaudry, but a point nonetheless that water consumption, though I'm presuming is not necessarily happening in a lot of other countries in Pakistan. I'm presuming we're a little slow at the uptake, but still, overall, well played by Omer on the other side as well. We're going to go back to the proposition. The case is laid out quite clearly in front of you. Both sides have made their cases. And Ammar's case, besides being factual, was also very emotionally inclined as well. Something to look into as we continue with Ali Xeeshan for the proposition. Your time starts now.
Hello. Hi. Please give me cheer. I dressed up for you guys. Woke up early in the morning. Please look alive. Thank you very much for having us here. When they told me that this is the topic we're going to talk about, I've been swinging between the two. It's such a sensitive topic, and also everybody who's here right now is a victim. So we can't really blame a person or a company or somebody. It is generally the world. Generally humans. Let's just blame humans for this in holistically. So I've been thinking about it. So all of this is being dictated by a beast that is social media. So that has changed the dynamics for fashion. Social media is, you have such short interest span that you want new thing every day. I know so many girls sitting here cannot repeat their outfit on social media, or do you? So you can't really deny that. You can't really deny that. So that is one beast that is dictating the fashion, and hence the fast fashion. In ideal world, I would want to just make 2 collections a year. Pretty collections, fall, winter, beautiful collections, summer. But trust me, we also have to pay our electricity bills, and we also have to grow. But responsibility ke saath. but responsibility ke saath you can't completely deny that. So now we are trying to look for a sweet spot, an ideal world where it's fast fashion yet responsible. So there are many companies, they are doing that already. Like Adidas, they are using ocean waste for their soles. As a high-end brand, Schiaparelli, they are taking already made leather jacket and they are upcycling it. They are putting new elements together and using the jackets. They are already on the planet. उसके अलावा मुझे लगता है कि ये प्रॉब्लम ग्रास रूट लेवल पे ज़्यादा है. It should start from your personal intake. It should start with your personal lifestyle. You can't wear like sustainable jacket and drive a fancy car that is leaving carbon footprint behind. So it should start from within. It should start from grassroots level. It should start from a lifestyle. So that is how we can change, make a difference. We can change the world overall. We can be more responsible day-to-day life में. That will also reflect in our brand, in our clothing, in everything else. Then this planet will become a better place for us and for our children. So we can't really just blame clothing. There's so much else that goes into it. So next point is price point. So there are times when you have to, in order to deliver, in order to make it economical, in order to make it more fast, to achieve that number, you need volume. You need volume. Of course, I'm again saying with all the responsibility, you have to generate numbers, so the volume will be a major part of it. You can't deny that either. So in ideal world, I would want to touch a sweet spot where it's fast fashion, it's quick, it's interesting, it's beautiful, it's fashionable, yet it's sustainable. So I am hoping for that world, for me, for my kids, for you, for everyone. Thank you very much.
If you'd like, you still have 4 minutes left, and in those 4 minutes, if you'd like to raise a point of information, you're more than welcome to before we switch. Point of information accepted.
Or I can add.
Take my 4 minutes.
The question is, Ali mentioned that a lot of industries are playing a role, but fashion is a part of it. But at the same time, if I look at overall numbers, 20% of the global wastewater is done by fashion industry.
Sorry, could you repeat that again a little louder?
20% of the global wastewater is contributed by fashion industry. Although I know that everybody is doing it, but if you look at the overall world industry and 20% of the global wastewater, I mean, we talked about like jeans production is getting better, but if I talk about the numbers here, the 92 million tons of water is going to be wasted this year. And do you guys know that what is the expected number in 2030?
No.
This number is expected to grow to 130 million. So with all the optimizations and everything that we are talking about, this number is continuously growing year over year.
Yeah.
My question is this for the fashion industry alone?
Fashion industry alone, yeah.
Okay, so I have a point.
Yep, you are accepted.
So you are running such a successful multi-brand platform called LAM. So what are you doing to prevent that? And you are in a position of power. So what ideas do you have? What are you bringing to the table? You are selling a lot of clothes every day, bro.
POI accepted. To you, Arif.
Yeah, no, it's a very good comment. And I think some of you might be surprised that representing LAM, I'm sitting on this side of the conversation. But to be honest with you, like, I think one of the things that I want to call out is that fast fashion and sustainability it doesn't need to be in a clash. And the thing is that people who are into this industry are eventually going to be the one who are going to change it. For example, when I was working at Microsoft and Facebook, Bill Gates decided in, I think, 2005 and 6, that what we are going to do is that we are going to make the company carbon neutral in next 20, 25 years. I think they have a goal in 2030 to be 100% carbon neutral. Obviously, the energy consumed by tech servers, I mean, you talked about Instagram and all the social media, social network, all of us are using on our phones. Eventually, it's run by servers at the back end. And they consume energy more than consumed by this country itself, some of the servers and the data centers. And eventually what they have done is that if you look at Amazon and some of the other companies, they have moved down all of their data centers to be carbon neutral now, which means 100% sustainable energy. They are not saying that we are going to go out and don't use social media because it's going to consume a lot of energy, but they went out and they went, okay, we are going to make all of the servers to be on sustainable energy. So at the same time, what I see our role to be is that if we are bringing all of the fashion together, we bring in the right measures in place that takes the overall carbon footprint. If the expected numbers, if you look at all the 2030 numbers.
Time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Take back from Ali Xeeshan is price point instant gratification via social media being responsible for our buying patterns, as well as sharing the blame as that it should not be all placed on the industry of fashion, but also on luxury industry and the carbon footprint that it leaves. Well done on the POI, that was fun. I'm hoping that we get a little more of that. Arif, you are the closing speaker you have 8 minutes, starting now.
Cool. I'm gonna talk about a few different areas when I talk about sustainable fashion. If you talk about sustainable fashion, obviously, like one thing that I just touched base on is carbon footprint. I want to talk about that. So that is one thing I want to talk about. The second thing, if I think about like fashion itself, which my friend touched on, is the social justice part. What are we doing around that? What do we need to more do around that? And the third, I want to talk about how technology can play a role in making fashion a lot more sustainable and something that we are also thinking about as an organization, LAM. If I think about like carbon footprint, I mean, we talked about global wastewater, 20% contribution, but if I talk about like overall greenhouse gases contributed by fashion today, is like around roughly, like there are different estimates by different organizations in the world, but that number lies between somewhere around 7 to 10%. So this is quite a bit of number, but at the same time, if you think about like how many organizations in the world have tried to really optimize and improve on that part, there are not many. And I think if you, it's funny that we are talking about sustainable fashion. Yesterday, the AQI for Lahore. How many of you know what is the AQI of Lahore yesterday? I think it was at least 450, or getting close to 500 plus. Okay, today. Then we talk about this year devastation caused by floods. It's just immense. So we need to think about how much greenhouse gases are being contributed by each industry. If an industry is contributing like 8 to 10%, we need to look back at it. We need to think about it. Although I love fashion, obviously I'm running LAM. I love like a lot of great products. I know that fashion is something we don't want to get rid of. It's supporting 300 million jobs in the world. I know in Pakistan itself, textile industry is contributing massive. So nobody's saying that fashion needs not to happen. Nobody knows, everybody loves wearing clothes. We all need to be happy as well. But at the same time, what are the things that we need to do to make it sustainable? I think that is the important part. The first towards that is, I think, where we really need to think about, which global organization, some of our friends here, myself included, needs to think about is like, overall, how much reduce waste can happen. Anybody in this audience knows that how much of a paper gets recycled? We all use paper a lot. What percentage of paper get recycled in the world? The number is 60%. 60% of the paper gets recycled. How much of clothing gets recycled?
In Pakistan,
across the world,
till it becomes a mop. I'm telling you.
I would actually agree with that. I love the fact that Pakistanis, by definition, the eldest sister or brother, the clothes are going to keep on inheriting to the next generation, which is amazing. But if I look at the global numbers, less than, and the maximum upper estimate is 10%. Some estimates are as low as 2% of the clothing gets recycled all across the world, and the rest goes to wastage. A single family on average wastes 30 kg of clothing annually. And the funny part is, this number is consistently going up. So if the recycling was doing better, this number would go down. But this number has been consistently going up. And per estimate, the 92 million wastage, as I called out, the 92 million wastage of water is expected to rise to 130 million. And 56 million tons of overall fashion clothing gets wasted it doesn't get recycled. So I think a lot of opportunity that this industry has is to look at all of that and starts to recycle it. And I want to also call out like some of the fashion industry. I mean, some of our friends talked about here water optimization being done by Levi's. Overall, the water usage has been going up, but some organizations are doing a good job. H&M, for example, has a factory which is now recycling clothes, which is a great initiative. But if I look at like the overall numbers, I think these are the kind of initiatives a lot of people need to push along with pushing for fast fashion. And so that the H&M made that factory, I think that needs to be a standard that a lot of other people do. And another fashion platform in India is called Nykaa. Some of you might have heard about it. I think it's a multi-billion-dollar company. What they have done is that they've created a separate line of products, which are sustainable products, and they today on the platform has more than 12,000 products which are sustainable. I literally looked at that number last night. There are more than 12,000 products, and this is again, like we have to define the criteria within Pakistan as well, that what does sustainable mean, and slowly transition. Obviously, we're gonna start from a very low 0% number, but slowly go towards like 3%, 4%, towards like 10% and 20%. I think some of the culture in Pakistan, which is like clothing get reused, we need to push that a lot more, which is like thrift stores. This is becoming a lot more common in the world. Understanding Rent the Runway as a platform in US has been pretty good, which I think reusability needs to be encouraged a lot more. With obviously like with all the aesthetics and cleaning and all of that taken care of, I think there is a lot of innovations that can be done here. The other thing that I really want to also call out is that in fashion industry, obviously we are sitting in the middle of it as well, and something that we are also trying to change ourselves is the fact that there is like, if you talk about like to any of the big manufacturer today, what they would be doing is that they would be producing based on intuitions. What I mean by that is that if let's say they have to produce this jacket, they would assume that, oh, Pakistanis are going to need this jacket, like maybe 20,000 people are going to need this jacket. And with the digital age we live in, on Instagram you make a post and you realize in 20 minutes whether people like it or not. In this digital age, we can do a lot more data-driven production rather than based on intuition production. So I think being data-driven can play a massive role.
So
I'll allow it.
All the big brands, so two points. One, when you talk about 12,000 SKUs that Zara is producing, they are not producing the depth in those 12,000 pieces versus the slower fashion brands. They are producing a lot of depth. There you have a lot of residual garments which are pushed out there, which are redundant. That's one. Because Zara, and second point is, it's not on one day they wake up and they decide. It's an algorithm. It's AI-based. The reason why they're so efficient, and most of the Spanish brands are, because they've incorporated tech in it. They're big data driven, and they're constantly looking at the algorithms, what are happening. So they're able to manage a shipment. So I went to the Zara warehouse. They were able to ship back in 2015, 2 million garments in a day with a precision guided 2 million garment to where it is required.
Time.
Yeah.
1 minute.
I would call out is that if Xeeshan obviously is on LAM platform, are very like one of the most popular. But if I talk about like on even LAM Partners app, which our vendors use, which we have more than 1,000, we have now added a simple button which predicts how much production is going to be needed for a particular product. So some of the technology that Zara developed, LAM is trying to develop that for all the industry of Pakistani fashion. So what we are trying to do is that we are trying to like really predict the demand that's going to have, so people don't. And to be honest with you, like when we looked at our industry, 25 to 30% of this intuition-based production is eventually like overproduced, and this is one of the reasons then they eventually end up going to different like low-selling markets, just for the sake of because they're overproduced and then price cuts and all of that. So I think.
Thank you, Arif. Yeah. Sorry, time. I apologize. I have to cut you off. Well done. Great points there. Carbon footprint technology, the percentages. Very factual and well researched. So thank you so much for enlightening us. We have last 4 minutes for each team to do their closing remarks. Your closing remarks can be individually, or you can speak together, and you can harmonize if you'd like to. You can sing as well. Dancing is a little difficult, but singing, absolutely, it's allowed. Tap dance, we are hoping for tap dance on that side. So for closing remarks, we'd like to ask the proposition. You have 4 minutes. Go ahead.
So I'll for the closing remarks. So if you look at the Industrial Revolution, so back in 1786 was the first power loom that was made, okay? So a power loom, you need to understand the concept where you have a person doing hand loom, he's required, he will churn out X amount of fabric, and that's it. As soon as power loom came into existence, that is the Industrial Revolution, he could churn out 100 times more. That meant that 100 times more of raw material was required. And so, I'm just talking about one machine. And if you talk about the sewing machine itself, that increased the speed of stitching. So we're living in an era where when he's talking about the price, now if you go to a power loom guy and you ask him to make you 5 yards of fabric because you are very environmentally conscious, he will not do it for you. He will say, give me at least 5,000 yards. It's just that the amount of R&D that you've put in, the amount of research that has gone into making that entire concept will ensure the success of it eventually. So we need to be mindful. And mindful at the stage of doing R&D, and this is where we're weak at in Pakistan. We need to understand, when we're talking about global proliferation and global fashion trends, we need to look inside first for the Pakistani market. So if you look at the Pakistani market, we are a beautiful country. You know what we're doing? We have immensely fantastic manufacturing facilities, maybe Crescent Bahuman, maybe artistic in Rajbi in Karachi, artistic in Karachi, in Faisalabad. You have textile industries which are complying to all the rules and regulations which no one in the world is complying to. We are. We will set up an affluent treatment plant costing X amount of $1 million, and we will do that so that we come across as responsible people, because people don't expect it. We need to hard sell our country. So we have a tough one, but our people who are in the manufacturing industry, they are far superior compared to a lot of people out there. So recently I went to a company which was platinum LEED certified. Platinum LEED certified says that it has almost a zero carbon footprint. Everything that they're doing is highly efficient. This is the Pakistan. Now people will not invest that amount of money out there in the world. That's the first point. Second one, if you look at the Pakistani market, we consume the second-hand products. We are one of the largest consumers out there. So if you go to Lunda, places like that, or Sunday market, we consume all the footwear, all the necklaces, all the fashion pieces that are thrown out from the world, which they feel that they do not require, we use it because we have excess population. And when we talk about excess population, this industry is utilizing at least 1.2 million people, and they provide at least 1.2 million people's livelihood. This is what these are the data.
1 minute.
But outside the data, I think maybe it provides much more than that. So a livelihood, a sustainable livelihood, and X, Y, Z. So we are not that bad. So that's when I say all things Pakistan, we are the rock stars of the world. Yes, we do all things to comply with the global standards, but we do not get the credit for it. And a lot of people, a lot of us, we don't even know about it. So coming back, we need to be mindful. And we need to have an equilibrium, like what he said. Fast fashion is not bad. Fast fashion is making sure that you are optimizing your resources, making sure that you're efficient enough, and you're handling things one day at a time, not in one season and then thinking about it later. So I think, hence, the fast fashion is not an ailment if it's done right and if it's an equilibrium, and if you're mindful enough. I think this could be, it's not that bad.
Okay. Yeah. This would be not so bad. I like the closing remarks. Well done, Omer. Thank you so much. Passionate and also well informative as well. Closing remarks from the opposition will be done by?
I'll add a few points, and if you want to add something later.
You have 4 minutes.
Sure, thank you, Hassan. I think there can be no environmental justice if you don't give workers their rights. Because the whole model of fast fashion is exploitative, in its essence. It cannot survive if you start giving workers their rights. The fast fashion industry cannot work. So it's inherently exploitative. So, for example, there has been some conversation about environment and all of that is great. I agree with that. But there's a lot of erasure when it comes to laborers. So you don't know who is making your clothes, So there was this campaign that I want you guys to check on Twitter and other social media platforms. Who made my clothes? Hashtag who made my clothes. And you get to see the people, the human beings behind the clothes that we are wearing right now. They are actual people who are giving their blood and sweat into the production of these clothes. So you cannot just ignore their plight. You have to see them as individuals, as people. You cannot see them as the others. There's a lot of othering. It's how the colonial powers have been seeing, the natives as inferiors or exotic others. So generally, working class workers are seen as the others. Okay, 260 workers died.
POI has to wait, just sorry.
I know it sounds you are sensationalizing it and you are generalizing it. I can only talk about Pakistani infrastructures and especially mine. So आप जो कह रहे हैं बात, and I'm very sorry if there's some accident here and there. I'm genuinely very, very sorry. But
it doesn't help. It doesn't help. We have to change the system.
सर मेरी बात सुनिएगा, मैं ये बात कह रहा हूँ,
आपने मेरी बात पहले रोकी है।
मेरी बात सुने। नहीं, मैं काफ़ी देर से वेट कर रहा था। मैं बात आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि बहुत से ऐसे घर हैं, बहुत से ऐसे ख़ानदान हैं जिनको लाइवलीहुड मिल रहा है इन प्लेटफॉर्म्स की वजह से। ठीक है, मेरे पास एक लड़का आया था 4 साल पहले, 4,000 रुपये की सैलरी पे सिर्फ टेबल साफ करता था. I saw potential in him, and right now he's a master. He cuts, sew and stitch really well, and he's taking 125,000 home. So that is like one person, and I have 4,000 people like that, and I don't treat them like others. They are my family. उनके घर पे बच्चा होता है, मैं खुद जाता हूँ, उनके घर पे कोई कुछ खुदा ना खास्ता कुछ ऊपर नीचे होता है. I am there, we are there, the spirit is there.
Time.
Yeah,
I'll give you an extra minute. Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't really matter if an individual does that. I mean, I appreciate if you are really like that, but the problem is with the system. You know, it's exploitative. It cannot survive, and it does not. So, if you want to add something, I think I'm pretty much done. I was just saying that this othering has to be stopped. It's just taking place all over the world. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll
2 minutes.
I'll just add a little bit. Closing remarks here is that fast fashion versus sustainable. I don't think we should say versus or against sustainable. What we should really try to do is that how can, obviously, like the world that we are living in, digital, we want to have something new every other day. How can we make fast fashion sustainable should be the goal. And this is where what we really need to look at is something that a lot of other industries looked at it, is that how can we reduce the overall trend of both carbon footprint and the business ethics that needs to run in and move them in the right direction. I mean, we talked about Pakistani industry. To be honest, like Pakistani industry, fashion industry itself is not contributing that much if I look at the global, some of the bigger names, a big in fashion industry. But at the same time, I believe that some of the good work that is happening in Pakistan, and we have also an opportunity to really be at the forefront of it. So for example, like Pakistan, when they did that tsunami, is like billion tree tsunami project, it became a limelight in the entire world. That how can a small country like Pakistan change the satellite imagery of a particular region because of the number of trees planted? So similarly, I think our fashion industry has an opportunity to kind of like start thinking in that way and think about like some of the impact that we can not only make on the local market, which again, like globally is not that much, but at the same time, we can also be an example setter for the global market itself. We also need to, again, some of my opposition called out, which is very important. Textile industry supports a lot of employment in Pakistan, so we have to be mindful that we are not talking about like going from 0 to 100. The journey is always going from 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, and this is something that we would want to do and see the change in the industry. Something that I believe that I wish us to play a part as well.
Thank you, Arif. Well done. Firstly, congratulations to all the speakers. This, when we sat down earlier today, I thought would be not the most exciting day, and it turned out to be quite the opposite. I wish we had a lot more time to continue the subject. When emotions and facts are mixed in the right amount, I believe the debate is always rich and with meaning, and that's exactly what we found today. I hope that this help you make your mind up as well, perhaps change your mind or to further instill the idea of what you had thought before, to continue forward in that same thought. So I would like everyone, if they could just please vote again. The subject before the House today is that fast fashion fever. Saving money trumps safeguarding environment. If you vote for the proposition or the opposition, there should be a barcode behind you. Please do vote. We'll give you 3 minutes to do that, in which time we will all take a deep breath and think about our role in this. While you guys are voting, I did want to discuss one little small thing that I think both sides left behind, and I understand that it's not necessarily part and parcel of our industry, but not that it should change the way you vote, because how you vote is based on this. The one concern I always have with fast fashion is that no doubt it gives tremendous amounts of jobs to so many. Textile is our largest sector. We are probably the second or the third largest manufacturer of clothing in the world, and an incredibly important part for design and fashion synergy to move forward. But the one thing that is happening with fast fashion, I hope everyone's voted, is that it is the death of craft and culture. Pakistan is known for its craft and its culture. It's known for its embroideries, embroideries that come from Hyderabad, and they come from Bahawalpur and Swat. These embroideries sustain our people. And most importantly, they empower women. There are so many organizations that help empower women to do these embroideries. Organizations like Kash Foundation that runs over 200 of these organizations. And us designers get to source this. But when our solutions become that much more simpler and cheaper through machines and fast fashion, then craft dies. And for many countries, that might not be a big problem. But for Pakistan, our craft and our culture really is one of the only thread that really connects us from who we were from before. And I hope that that still is something that you think about when you think of fast fashion. Us designers might be considered expensive, and we might be considered overpriced as opposed to what you can buy for 2,000 rupees. But you must understand that one of those outfits has sustained 6, maybe 7, maybe 12 artisans who have taken that craft from generation to generation and are saving that craft for generations to come when you have decided to pass it on to your children. These are not just pieces of fashion, but they're hopefully language and history of where we were today and how we took our craft forward. Thank you. So we have the results.
What were the pre-results? What were the pre-results?
Yes, I think that would be exciting. Can we have the pre-results first?
So the pre-poll was that 72% were for the fast fashion fever, saving money, Trump safeguarding environment. Wow, a lot of consumers here of fast fashion. You all did get it, right? That ढेर सारे कपड़े खरीदने से बड़ा मुसीबत हो जाएगी. Yeah? Okay. You still believed it. Give yourself a round of applause. Thanks for the small guys. Thank you. And posted 38%, as in a small fraction, but still a fraction, changed their minds. Can I just have those people who changed their minds, a few of them, if you're okay, to raise your hand? And if it's all right, can I just ask, one of the people why they decided to change their mind? If that's possible? No? We don't have the time? I guess we don't have the time. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for this. What did we get? You all, what did they get? You all get a cell phone. Water coolers, they're on their way. Thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. Great day. Also helped me change my mind on some things as well, and further understand that all of our roles are important in this, and I hope that we will all work together to move fashion ethically forward. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.